it goes right, it's a slice. If it goes left, it's a hook. If it goes straight, it's a miracle. This is Out of Bounds. If it's happening in the world of golf, we're talking about it. Coverage, debate, discussion, pro golf and local golf. Let's do it. This is Out of Bounds. And here are your hosts, Nate Sharman and Josh Durso.
Out of Bounds. Today on the program, we are breaking down Rory McIlroy's historic win at Augusta National, becoming just the sixth golfer all-time to achieve the career Grand Slam. We're breaking down all the other action from the Masters and looking ahead to the RBC Heritage in Hilton Head. I'm Josh Durso, joined by Nate Sharman. This is Out of Bounds. Nate, what an absolutely incredible weekend. What a dramatic final round and final pairing. I think that's where we have to start, right? We need to talk about just how insane that last grouping was.
Yeah, it's just insanity. Anything that a golf fan would want, I think it's one of the best Masters that we've seen in recent history. It might even be the best one. But just an amazing outcome. I mean, after the 10th green, Rory makes that birdie on 10, right? He goes 5 strokes up. And you're like, not even Rory can choke this away, right? You know, we've seen the problems that Rory's had in these last few years. Yeah. But then he makes a just inexcusable double bogey at 13. He made a bogey at 11 as well. And then all of a sudden, Justin Rose is tied for the lead with him. And Rory makes another bogey at 14. And Justin Rose has got the lead by himself. And Rory's able to claim the lead back with that miraculous shot at 15. And then Justin Rose rolls in another birdie to take the clubhouse lead. Eventually, they go to a playoff, and Rory McIlroy prevails in that playoff. So just amazing stuff out of the second 9 at Augusta National on Sunday. Just, you thought he was just going to cruise and get that illustrious 5th major and complete that career Grand Slam, but he didn't make it easy, but he eventually did it.
Yeah, I think that's really where we need to start in terms of figuring, debriefing from all of this. React to the win, I guess, is the thing we need to start with. For me, big for golf, obviously huge for him. I felt like coming down the stretch there that he was going to lose it. And I was starting to, especially, when he missed the putt on 18 and we knew we were going to a playoff, my brain started to game out how this was going to be for Rory if he didn't actually win. And let me tell you, I think that was going to be a really dark scenario, not just for Rory McIlroy, but for professional golf in general. So huge for him to get it. Of course, career Grand Slam, only a half dozen guys have done it. But man, I had some serious doubts because, Justin Rose really had the round of the day. He played the best golf yesterday.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I was sitting yesterday watching it, listening to my car and then watching it. And I was thinking to myself, what am I going to go on TikTok and say? What am I going to say tomorrow on the podcast if Rory does blow this? Because, I love Rory McIlroy, talk about it a lot. I love how authentic and real he is, especially these last couple of years with the media, with the patrons, with everybody. I just think he's really fun and really good for the game. So I've always rooted for Rory McIlroy. So it's something that I was like, I don't know how we can justify this, having a 5-stroke lead, with 8 holes remaining. But thank goodness that he is able to get the victory, completes the career Grand Slam, becomes the 6th golfer in history to do that. So just history was shown at Augusta National on Sunday in his 17th attempts at the green jacket at Augusta. 11th tries between majors when he won that PGA Championship in 2014. Guess who else had 11 years between majors, Josh? Tiger Woods. So there's a little similarity there.
Yeah. And to think that, Tiger completed the career Grand Slam, 3 times and had a pile of extra majors on top of that too. Just shows
not to mention the Tiger Slam, right?
Yeah.
And not to mention those 11 years, Tiger Woods also dealt with his injuries, right? And he also had his wife trying to hurt him with a club. So, he went through a little bit differently than Rory McIlroy went through. Rory played in all those tournaments in those 11 years.
But also, let's just not forget the fact that it is really hard to win majors. It's hard to win a normal golf tournament. It's hard to win majors, especially with how close and how much better players are in general now. It's different. You asked the question, and I've really been thinking about this one hard. Do you think this win opens the floodgates for him? Where do you stand on that one after watching yesterday?
In terms of majors, I think maybe a little bit, because we've seen Rory McIlroy contend, at the Open Championship at St. Andrews when Cameron Smith won. He was right there. Last year, obviously, he had the U.S. Open with Bryson. So I think what was going on with Rory was just that there was this block, right? That, I'm a good enough golfer to win. I know I think if you would ask him that, he would say he is, but he just wasn't converting, obviously, right? So now he knows how to convert and knows what he can do. So he was only 35 years old. He's got probably 10 years of his best golf, I would say, left in front of him. So we're talking 40 majors, and Rory's been a guy who really doesn't get hurt and doesn't seem like he has a lot of his personal life stuff under control. I mean, there's definitely talks of things going on in his personal life from the outside, but there's it definitely in control. So I could see him winning a few more. Why not? I mean, the only thing with Rory, though, is he loves to overpower golf courses. And as he gets older, he might lose some yardage. So that could become something too, right? But I mean, he hasn't he's only gained yardage the last few years. So I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon, but that could happen towards the tail end of his career.
Yeah. I think about him mentioning a couple times in interviews over the last, I think mostly this year, but maybe even a little bit last year as well, saying that he didn't really want to play past his prime. Like he wanted to quit while he still had some in the tank, I believe was how he put it. I think about that. And you know what, like, everyone was rightfully so really focused on the emotional release that we saw take place on that first playoff hole on that green. He collapsed to his knees. He was overcome with emotion, the waterworks, the whole 9 yards. I think while some people are looking at this as like, holy crap, this is a huge weight off of his shoulders. Now he's going to be unlocked. He's going to be able to just crush it took 20 minutes before I started to see tweets about, him getting the Grand Slam this year, just winning every single major. I'm more curious, how much does he have left in the tank after that? Like that, the pursuit of the Masters was clearly such a big part of him. You get it. You've gotten to the other side. Now what's next? Right. Dog chases the truck, catches the truck. What happens next? I don't know. Like this is one of those things where we're going to have to watch this play out in real time. How does he look at the PGA Championship? How does he look at the US Open? Like, yes, he's had success at those events in the past. How does he look at the Open? I'll be curious to see how he looks the rest of the year, because I think that really could dictate what, long term, what else he can do. Can he win another 3 or 4 majors before the end of his career? I would say on paper, absolutely. But I would say that was the case even before winning the Masters. He's one of the 3 or 4 best players on planet Earth. He's easily the best player of his generation. But, it's just one of those scenarios where I got to see what he's got left in the tank now for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you bring that up, that whole about him not wanting to play past his prime, right? And I think it was really cool what Rory said. I don't remember if it was towards the beginning of this year or when it was exactly, but he had 3 goals for the rest of his career, right? 3 big goals. A, win a Masters, check. B, win an away Ryder Cup. That's something he has the chance to do in New York this year, in September. And the third one was win an Olympic medal. It's either an Olympic medal or Olympic gold medal. And he's going to have a chance to do that in just a few years. So it's going to be really interesting to see where Rory goes. But I think that the monkey's off the back, right? And now you can just play golf and play the way you know how. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. Are we seeing a Scotty Scheffler 2024 year from Rory McIlroy? Scotty won 7 times last year, including that gold medal too as well. Rory's already got 3 wins. He won the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. He won the Players Championship in that playoff, and then he always won the Masters. So 3 wins, and we're just through the Masters. What do you think? Possible.
It's absolutely possible. I mean, he could, if he got another major this year, I wouldn't be surprised at all. If he's got, enough left in the tank, it's entirely possible. But I don't know. That, I think one of the things that's not quite appreciated yet is just how unusual that season was from Scotty Scheffler last year. That's a lot of wins. And remember, they were very condensed. The PGA Tour schedule is very weird now for these guys, where there's a lot of golf that has to be played between basically, the Arnold Palmer and late June, early July. So, maybe, but I wouldn't necessarily I wouldn't be putting any money on that. Let's put it that way. If somebody's making me put money on it, I'm not putting money on it.
Right. And you would think Scotty's going to rip off a couple wins too. He seemed like he kind of found something towards the end of that round on Sunday. But yeah, let's talk more about Justin Rose, I think, who got in that playoff. Yeah. Now we've given Rory his proper flowers here. What a round from Rosie. 66 makes that long, probably like 30-footer on 18 to get in the playoff. Just all class from the 44-year-old Englishman. I know you love Justin Rose, so let's talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, like I said off the top, I think he played the best round of golf yesterday that was out there. Seeing the resurgence of these guys when they're sort of in the twilight of their career, because he is, at 43, 44 years old, you're past the traditional prime, especially with
he's almost 45, I think. I think he's 44. He's almost 45.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely on the backside of the career there. But listening to him talk about his performance over the last year in majors, he's played well in majors, and it's one of those things where I can't recall if it was the U.S. Open that he had to qualify for last year.
The Open Championship, I believe he Open qualified for.
Okay,
because I believe it was I think Adam Scott qualified for the U.S. Open, right?
Okay,
that's what it was, right?
I believe that sounds right.
I know he qualified for the Open in qualifying.
Yeah, see, to me, that's the issue that professional golf has right now, where there isn't a way for us to continue to see and get these guys automatically into the big events, even though they clearly have a place there. Are they going to, is Justin Rose going to, finish top 10, top 15 every single week at 45 years old or 44 years old? No. But these guys who were significant players and had meaningful careers in the context of professional golf since the Tiger Woods era happened, we gotta find a way to keep these guys in significant events. And it was just really nice to see him perform like he did, because in my mind, that helps make the case that these guys have a place and they deserve to be able to play in some of these events, even select elevated events that maybe they aren't qualifying for on paper. I know we've got the Tiger rule out there. I think at some point here, the PGA Tour is going to also need to put in a legacy rule where some of these guys who, were significant in the 2000s, significant in the 2010s, have an opportunity to play, because they're draws, but they also can still recreate that magic that they had earlier in their careers. That's where it stands for me. There was a point yesterday afternoon where it was really close for me. I think I might have been rooting for Justin Rose a little harder than I was Rory McIlroy.
He's so much fun to root for. I mean, Justin Rose, he's all class. A guy that's been a PGA Tour lifer, right? Who's been a lot of fun to watch. His second place in the Masters. He's come in solo second 3 times. 2 times he's lost in a playoff. The other playoff was, I believe, with Sergio Garcia.
It was.
So it's just brutal for a guy like Justin Rose. I mean, you saw how happy he was almost in a way for Rory. I really liked his interview after. He's talking about how cool it is for Rory to complete the career Grand Slam, right? And at the end of it, he gives a little wink and he goes, "But I wanted to be the villain today." So it's just pretty cool from Rosie. Just so cool. I hope he can get one done at the times sort of clicking on him when we've seen, Phil Mickelson win at the age of 50, right? So it could happen where Justin Rose comes up and gets to another one major, and that would just make him quite a golfer if he's able to achieve another major. But what a day from Rosie. I thought he was going to make that putt on 18 in the playoff. I really did.
I did as well, especially with
How does that not spin back? By the way, he uses that hill on the backside, and you saw Rory's ball come down it, but Justin's ball just kind of hung there.
Yeah, it's just fate was on Rory's side yesterday. Let's put it that way.
Want to talk about Bryson or no?
Yeah, we have to talk about that guy. I guess the question is, what do we make of his performance? But to me, I don't know that his performance was even the biggest story. Obviously, he didn't have his best stuff all weekend. And he said that, I proved to myself that I could contend even without my best stuff. He posted it again to social media. He had said it yesterday in his interview afterward. You could just tell watching him go through the motions after, about the 3rd hole where it seemed like maybe he was going to make a run. He just lost momentum and never got it back. And I believe a hot mic caught him at some point saying, I'm just not playing well today or something to that effect. That was reality for him. To me, the interview afterward where, he mentioned Rory not talking to him at all during the round, it felt a little salty. It felt a little unnecessary. Like, I looked at it as number one, Rory was clearly locked in as hell yesterday. He wasn't reacting to good and bad shots. He wasn't really reacting to anything. He wasn't really paying attention to the patrons. And then number 2, hearing Bryson kind of come off a little salty afterward. It was another reminder to me that it's really not a good idea to judge these guys on what is their worst day when they lose a tournament that they really want to win. We did it with Rory last year after the US Open, and everyone was like, "Oh, Bryson's such a great guy. Bryson is," and he's good for golf, and he's clearly a good person. I think most of these guys are genuinely good people. But when you are wired the way these guys are wired and you lose, there are going to be things that come out, and you're going to do some things that just fall outside of, I guess, the perfect character that some people on social media expect people to have at all times. It's a lot. And I think that was a bit of the frustration of losing coming out, him commenting about, Rory didn't try to talk to me once all day. Was he supposed to?
Right.
Like, last I checked, you guys were there to compete and
win $4 million.
It just goes back. Also, to me, it just shows how different Bryson is from everyone else in professional golf, because he is so fan focused that even in between holes yesterday, while he is, fully dialed in, he's also interacting with, the fans there. He's fist bumping in between holes, things like he's different. He has the capacity clearly to, interact at a different level when he's at that highest level of his own personal performance. Not all those guys do. If anything, I think they have a little bit of deficiency. They're so good at being able to dial in and get so focused and play so goddamn good that the flip side of that is that you lose a little bit of the personality, and you lose a little bit of the good guy that comes along with it. But what do you think? What'd you make of the performance overall?
Yeah, I mean, Bryson just never had it all day, right? On route to that 75. He had the lead, which was crazy after the second hole, right? And then he was never really close. But yeah, going to that interview after, I brought two things out of it. First of all, I agree with you 100%. Like, is he supposed to talk to you during the round? Like, he's trying to win a golf tournament. Yeah. Also, he says he didn't talk to him all round. When they got to the first tee, Rory, at least they both gave each other the good luck and shook each other's hand and stuff. Like, I don't know. I don't think he didn't ever talk to him. That's probably not true, right? I mean, it seemed pretty healthy and pretty nice what they did before they had their tee balls. And the other thing is too, it goes back to what Shane Lowry said on Saturday night after his interview, or during his interview. It's just so crazy that these guys, they come off the golf course, right? In Bryson's case, he just lost the Masters when he was playing the final group. Shane Lowry's case, he was contending for the Masters and finished bogey. And Shane basically said, I get done here and you guys stuff a microphone in my face and I haven't even really had time to think about it. Yeah. And that's really interesting to me, because these guys don't have to do media, right? These, Bryson DeChambeau, we saw Rory McIlroy do it last year at the US Open. He squealed his tires off and he ran out the door, right? So it's really interesting, because Shane Lowry had the thinking, be like, well, give me a half an hour to sit and think, and then I'll talk to you. And maybe that's the way we should go. And I think I agree with him, because it is just so raw and so emotional from these guys to think about their round and kind of how they're wired. And you mentioned how they're wired, and to be able to not have to think about it and have to go talk to the media and talk to everybody about what happened today is really cool. It's really cool that they do it, but it's really interesting that they do it that way. And I really like how Shane ended the interview. He was like, well, basically, he thought about it. He's like, wait, I don't really have anything to say. All right, I'm done here. So I really thought that was cool from Shane Lowry. And it was really reigned, I thought, cool and supreme to the Bryson interview, because that's just so emotion. They just lost the golf tournament today, or right, in Shane's case, really ruined his positioning on Sunday. I don't really know what I have to say. I have to think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes back to, how much the tour is trying to force the interaction. Of course, you want to talk to them as soon as they get off the golf course. But at the same time, there are certain times when you're asking yourself, well, does it matter? Like, right, did we need to talk to Shane Lowry after the third round in that context? Did we really need that? I don't know. He clearly didn't. I don't know. That's just one of those things where the tour is going to continue, and the broadcast partners that the tour has, CBS, NBC, they're going to continue to massage that out and work with different things and experiment with different things. The 18th hole greenside interview has been a part of broadcast golf since, the Stone Ages, basically. So they're going to keep doing it. But yeah, it's a highly charged emotional moment for these guys when they're coming off the 18th green, and to have to flip right over into media mode. That's definitely a challenge. Hey, I want to ask you, last week we talked about what our favorite thing about the Masters, or what our favorite thing about the Masters was. I'm curious. I mentioned the broadcast, or I mentioned the product, and I mentioned the app. And I wanted to get your take on what you thought was lacking or perhaps good about the whole week-long production. But I just wanted to also correct my awful take from last week. Terrible take. Bad take. Hand up. The Masters app, garbage. And as it turns out, the whole broadcast, pretty mediocre in the grand scheme of things. CBS knows how to get the big moment right. So obviously,
Nance is so good at the big moment.
Yeah, they are.
So is Trevor Immelman.
Good. They kill that part of it. But the things we've complained about, or golf fans have complained about in professional golf and broadcasting professional golf, all of them reared their ugly head this past week. Poor time. Well, first we had the complaints Thursday and Friday about not being able to see the guys that were moving up and down the leaderboard. So there was that.
That's a Masters problem.
You had the continued complaint about, why do we have to jump between 7 different networks for 2 hours at a time? And why is it so difficult to just can't you just put the damn thing on everywhere so we can just see it all? But then also coming into the weekend, it seemed like on Sunday they missed some shots on the front 9 where they were trying to get things going on the broadcast. What stood out to you as good, bad, or indifferent?
Yeah, so we'll start with the app, right? And we've talked about the Masters app being really good. And I think the idea behind it is really good, right? Being able to see every shot and be able to go in my group and look at these shots. But a lot of times it's behind, and that hurts because, we'll take like Patrick Reed or someone, for example, they hit their driver and you're watching the video, but if you're a gambler, you don't know if you care about a random player hitting their drive on number 5 on Thursday at the Masters. Just tell me where it is. Tell me if it's in the fairway. Tell me if it's in the pine straw. I don't think I need to see the video. You gotta click through a couple buttons, and halftime it's behind too. So I think that's what the PGA Tour does so well. They have ShotLink on their app, and that updates pretty quickly. And there's no video on that app, and they focus all their effort and all their time and resources on that ShotLink. And so I think that's really fun, that he hit it 320 to the pine straw or hit it 320 to the right fairway. And I think that's good. And I'm used to that. So maybe that's why I like it too. So being able to just check that and be able to go through with it. I thought the coverage was very good. I think CBS did a nice job, especially at the end. Rory wins that super emotional tournament, right? And I think I was looking at someone posted it last night. They didn't talk for 7 minutes, Josh, as Rory was walking off the green. And that's for Nance and Immelman to be able to know that this is a moment we don't need to talk and let that moment breathe, right? And step out of the way and not talk for 7 minutes as I think is awesome. I thought they hit that final call out of the park, being able to call that Rory McIlroy win, because this is way more emotional than any other win, so it's pretty cool in that sense. But yeah, couple missed shots here and there. And then just the Masters, the fact that you couldn't watch, Bryson DeChambeau was going super low on Friday and you couldn't watch it. There's no way to watch it live. I mean, people say, yes, my group, but that's not live. That's however much time behind. So you gotta get to that. It is interesting, right? But it's also, we can keep talking about the Masters doesn't show enough golf. They showed more actually this year than they have before. They added 2 more hours on Saturday and Sunday, Paramount Plus. So it's something we're going to keep complaining about the Masters with, but it's probably not really going to change that much.
Yeah, I agree. It was 46 words, by the way. That's how many words were spoken in 7 minutes.
Yeah, it's incredible.
7 minutes that you referred to.
Rory had the line of that 7 minutes when he said, I gotta go get a green jacket.
Yeah, that was well, and what's really
for eternity.
What's really great about that is that they don't just let it breathe, but it feels, because of the way they're producing it, where the cameras are, how they're following the player, it feels so real. Like you literally feel like you're walking with them, essentially.
It's just so authentic.
So awesome.
Yeah, it's so real. And that's something we've asked for in golf the last few years, right? And that's exactly what we got. Just the raw emotion from Rory McIlroy after he knocks that putt in on the playoff hole, falls to his knees, right? It's just, you can't, it's like a storybook ending to that tournament.
Yeah, look, I'm gonna conclude this part of the show here talking about broadcast and just summing it up like this. Fans just want a broadcast experience from start to finish in one place or multiple places. Put it everywhere. If everyone wants to get some, if Paramount Plus and CBS want to split it up between themselves, if ESPN or the ESPN app or whatever the case may be, like Golf Channel, NBC, whoever's carrying it that week needs to make the broadcast and a broadcast available for the duration. If you're doing featured groups and you're doing Amen Corner and you're doing all these, you have like 3 different quarter broadcasts going on, just give us a full broadcast feed the entire tournament, period.
Yeah,
figure it
sounds
out.
good to me.
You got hedge funds dumping billions of dollars into golf. We can afford it. Let's react a little bit here to live expectations. we spent quite a bit of the show last week talking about, how we thought live guys were going to perform. Our top guys out of live this week were Reed with a solo third finish, Bryson obviously with a T5. He should have been a lot better. Bubba Watson, Tyrrell Hatton, John Rahm, all T14. And then Neiman was finishing in there at T29. Plenty of guys missed the cut. We're going to be talking about guys who missed the cut here in a little bit, but did the live guys play to your expectations, or did they falter to your expectations?
Yeah, definitely not to expectations, right? We had a bunch of the main guys miss the cut, as we'll talk about. Joaquin Niemann, is he the best golfer in the world, as per Phil Mickelson?
Apparently.
Still looking for a top 20 in a major.
I mean,
he looked on fire on Thursday. I thought it was going to be his time. He came out of the gates hot and then just fell. But yeah,
hard.
Patrick Reed, I mean, he gets in front of Bryson, right? Dunks that one in on 17. And if Patrick Reed doesn't 3-putt on 15 from a pretty small distance, he could have gotten to the playoff. He had a reasonable putt on 18 to make birdie. He was out of the tournament by then. But we could have seen former past champion Captain America playing in the playoff. We could have.
Yeah, there's that alternate reality, right? Where
he's got some hands. He's a lot of fun to watch. Whenever there's a major and whenever he's playing well, I forget how much I enjoyed watching him, because he has some hands around the green and he can make some putts and chips the ball very well as well.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I think it proves the hypothesis that playing over on live, these guys are losing a bit to the rest of golf. And, it may not show in guys like Patrick Reed or Bryson DeChambeau, who, had success in majors before they went to live and, were proven winners before they went to live. Even a guy like John Rahm finished T14, but he couldn't have been less of a factor coming through the weekend. He didn't make his move until late Sunday. I don't want to call it garbage time, but sort of garbage time.
Played well Saturday too. Yeah.
They weren't really in contention, or they weren't even able to get into contention because it was so late. So, I think, I hope that some of these guys are able to create some magic, because a lot of them are very popular. But at the end of the day, I think we know who we're going to see perform really well in majors out of that live group. It's Patrick Reed, it's Bryson DeChambeau, maybe it's John Rahm, but a lot of question marks beyond that. A lot of questions.
Yeah, so the guys to miss the cut from live: DJ Brooks, Sergio, Phil, and Cameron Smith. Cameron Smith, man,
That hurt you.
I had him in the make cut parlay. He was 1 under par, and he had the most atrocious back nine of his career. Right, 8 for 8 on cuts coming in. So that was pretty sad on Friday night. Oh man, I went on TikTok, and if you guys follow us there, I was pretty distraught.
I was thinking about this when it comes to those guys who missed the cut. Obviously, we want to be surprised, I guess, when a guy like Cam Smith doesn't make the cut. But when it comes to the state of professional golf right now, there's like maybe 5 or 6 guys who I feel like are automatic every week, whenever and wherever they're playing. And outside of that, they're not automatic. Like that list of 5 or 6 guys to me is Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Colin Morikawa, Xander Schauffele, Bryson DeChambeau, maybe Ludwig Aubert now, because he's kind of rising to it. I guess maybe we can put John Rahm in that category, where like we know more times than not he's going to make the cut. He's sort of automatic to be in the realm of things, but even he hasn't quite played that well the last year. But when we're outside of talking about those 5 or 6 guys, it's a big old question mark. To me, it doesn't feel much better than a 50-50 proposition about whether they're going to be in contention on the weekend or whether they're going to miss the cut.
Yeah, it really sucks for Cam Smith that he went to live, because he was lighting the world on fire before he left and, won that Open Championship where he played unbelievable golf and got red hot. And then he goes to live and you don't really hear much much about him, right? At all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's disappointing, but, like these guys, they did what they wanted to do. He went where he wanted to go.
Yep.
Golf is what golf is.
To be fair to the live guys, there's a couple names that miss a cut from the PGA Tour side: Keegan Bradley, Tony Finau, Will Zalatoris.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, not a ton to talk about with those 3 guys. Obviously not the big names, not huge names, but Keegan Bradley, the Ryder Cup captain, seemed like he was getting some stuff together. A guy that did make the cut, though, however, we need to talk about, I think, is Mr. Max Homa. Hasn't made a cut since the Open Championship last year. Gets a T12 out of it. Doesn't matter how bad he plays the rest of the year. He's coming back to the Masters next year with the top 12, and ties get in next year. So that's pretty cool.
I hope that we watched him turn a corner this
I think we did. That's
I
a
really hope
huge
so.
confidence boost.
I really hope so. And to that end, you mentioned it, so I'm gonna say it again. Jordan Spieth had a respectable finish, T14, awful. Justin Thomas, wasn't in contention per se, but I was combing through Data Golf this morning, and they've got him in the top 10 in the world at this point.
To be fair to JT, he did not have his caddy this week. He had to call in Max's old caddy, which is funny because they broke up. But so we'll give a little bit of leeway to Justin Thomas, but yeah, not the best week on the weekend for him. He played really, really poorly on Saturday.
But you know what?
But not the worst.
In terms of some of these guys who late last year and early this year, we've been talking about saying they need to do something. We would love to see them do something for American golfers who we want to see get rolling again. Nothing bad, nothing alarming came out of this past weekend from the three guys that we just mentioned, whether it's Max Homa, Jordan Spieth, or Justin Thomas. Feel good about where they are, especially in terms of running into the Ryder Cup this fall.
Although with Jordan Spieth on Saturday at the end of his, or maybe it was Friday at the end of his round, I thought Growler was going to leave him on the fairway because he wasn't happy about being on the right side of 18. Michael Growler, he puts up with a lot with Jordan Spieth, huh?
Whatever he gets paid, it's not enough. whatever it is, it's not enough. But you know what? It works. They work together. So who are we to judge? Also, I think, out of all my picks this past week, Akshay Bhatia, he was one of my long shot picks. He finished T42. I was hoping to see a little more out of him this past weekend because I kind of feel like he's my dark horse pick to be on this fall's Ryder Cup team. I'd love to see him on the Ryder Cup team. I don't know that he's going to get there, but I hope to see more out of him. And we saw some flutters, some little hints that maybe he was going to make a move on Friday, and he got himself into position there as he finished that second round, but just couldn't keep it going into the weekend and just had a middle of the road finish.
Yeah, but still respectable for Akshay. I mean, that's his first Masters, right? So I mean, that's I don't think it's his first, but
here's the thing with him. It's easy to forget how young he still is because he skipped the college experience. Like he went pro, I believe, at 17 years old. So he's got years of experience. It feels like he's been around for a bunch of years, but him and I believe Ludwig are the same age or roughly the same age. So, while
second Masters, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So while, Aubert is only been around, really 2 years in terms of the front of golf fans' minds, Akshay really is still in the beginning of his career and has done well. I really want to see him on the Ryder Cup team this year. So hopefully he gets a win or two here that puts him in that position. Yeah,
well, you mentioned Ludwig Aubert and what a great round for him. Thought he was going to be able to get into a position. It looks worse on the scorecard, right? If he finishes with that triple bogey, or he's kind of batting around on 18 after he needed a good number. But yeah, what a round from Ludwig. 2 Masters, and he's got, well, now he finished in 7th place, but it was basically a top 5 right till the end. So it's the sky's the limit for this kid. That's another young guy that we're going to be talking about for a while. You would think Ludwig will be able to get one done here and get a green jacket eventually. He's got a lot of time.
Yeah. Little quick fact about that. Disaster on the closing hole there for him. That hole cost him $550,000, I believe.
Ouch.
Yeah, that's tough. But that's what a triple bogey will do to you.
He was he needed a 2 to get in that final group after 3 putting on 17. You could tell he was in the bunker and he was just trying to make it. And then he just kind of batting it around a little bit on the green. Kind of froze Rory up a little bit. I think people that are anti-Rory fans kind of like that, right? Kind of froze him on this because there was a backup on the tee box because Ludwig was playing ping pong, but Rory was able to get through. I mean, he made bogey, so I don't know if he got through it, but eventually.
It's tough. All right, let's turn the page. Looking ahead, we've got the Heritage this weekend, my favorite golf tournament of the year, down at Harbor Town, Hilton Head Island. RBC so the big thing that I want everybody to be thinking about this week as we head towards this one. Right now, they've been for the last 2 years now. RBC and the PGA Tour have had this like year-to-year commitment thing going on. No long-term deal for sponsorship of this event. It's an elevated event, so this is a signature event. It follows the Masters. There's been debate and question about whether it should be moved on the schedule. All I'm going to say is I kind of feel like this is going to be the last year we see this event in its current form at its current place on the schedule. I think either a sponsor change is coming or a time change is coming, or I hate to say this, but I could also see it getting de-elevated. That would be absolutely brutal. Harbour Town should be a signature event on the PGA Tour just because of the venue that they're playing at. Harbour Town's an incredible golf course. But RBC is also sponsor of the Canadian Open, which obviously has had some incredibly high profile outcomes over the last couple of years. It's clearly become like the heart and soul of what RBC is about with the PGA Tour. And these are being negotiated together, by the way. So we'll see what happens, but I think there's going to be some changes with this event come next year.
Yeah, I could see a path where they try to get the Canadian Open elevated, right? Because that tournament means so much to Canada and means so much and had some good finishes, including Rory McIlroy, who's been a winner of that event over the last few years. I could see that where they want to get, the week after the Masters, they want to get that de-elevated because a lot of these guys probably don't want to play. Just being fair. Rory McIlroy he was not in the field at the RBC Heritage. He wasn't in the field before the Masters, but we won't see like we saw last year with Scottie Scheffler winning the Masters, then winning the Heritage the week after.
Yeah, which too bad. I think it's an event they should all want to play, but you
would think. But yeah.
All right, my last question for you before we get out of here. Rory McIlroy, place in history, 5 majors. He's completed the career Grand Slam. When we're having a conversation about, the 10 or so best golfers of all time, where is he in that top? Where would you put him in that top 10?
Right in the middle, right? Because he's become, and I think it's fair to say that because, he's the 6th golfer ever to win the career Grand Slam. And it's going to be tough for guys to do that. Brooks has got a good chance, right? And there's Scotty's got a great chance. He needs all 3. It needs the other 3, but longevity, right? So I think right in the middle there is a good spot for Rory McIlroy, gets a couple more majors and maybe a couple of high profile wins. He hasn't won at the Memorial. I think that's one of the bigger ones. He also hasn't won at Tiger's tournament at the Genesis. I think that could be a big feather in his cap if he's able to win there. So I think those are the kind of what he's looking at. But like I said, what Rory's thinking about the most is the Away Ryder Cup and the Olympics.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for me, before he won the Masters, I had him kind of neck and neck or just behind Phil Mickelson in the historical context. And I think with that win yesterday, he moves past him. But, I think part of it is because of the struggles that he's experienced over the last decade, that it's going to take longer for people to really appreciate Rory's place in golf history. And that's kind of like, he came in as the heir apparent to Tiger Woods with clearly the most unrealistic of expectations in terms of what he could potentially do compared to what Tiger Woods did. And, now, maybe with this being done for him, we can start to think about him as one of the 5 or 6 best golfers of all time, which I think is a completely fair thing to do. Another thing that, kind of popped into my head, we don't really know who the number 2 is to Rory. If Rory is that generation's best golfer, we don't really know who the number 2 is. And they didn't really have any, there weren't any battles, I guess. Tiger had Phil, Jack had Arnie, Gary Player, other, every generation has had a kind of a real fight between a couple guys to be the best of the best. Whereas that immediate after Tiger era just didn't really have anything. And it was Rory or no one. And
well, if he doesn't get hurt, I think that answers that is Jason Day, right? He has all those problems. I think he could have been there, just he had to deal with those back issues, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But in turn, it makes it more challenging to put Rory in historical context because of that. So hopefully he rattles off more wins, make everything a lot easier. Hey, that's going to do it.
It was great to see him win on Sunday. That's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, that is going to do it for this edition of Out of Bounds. Check out the TikTok, YouTube channel, Instagram, and Substack for more in between episodes. And until next time, you guys know the drill. Whether it's down the middle or out of bounds, keep on swinging.
You've been listening to Out of Bounds. If it's coverage, debate, or discussion of pro and local golf, we'll be talking about it. Be sure to visit the website. Find us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. See you next time on Out of Bounds.